Trayvon. And then I started hearing a little bit of Trayvon saying, get off, it's crap.
Okay, let me stop you a second. You heard a grass sound and then you said something. What did you say?
I was trying to say Trayvon's going on.
And what did you hear?
Trayvon, I kind of heard Trayvon saying, get off.
Then what did you hear?
And then the second later, the phone hung up. The home shut off.
Okay. When the phone shut off, what happened then?
And I had to call him back.
You called Trayvon Martin back?
Yes.
Were you able to talk to him again?
During questioning by defense attorney Don West, Rachel Jeantel described what Trayvon Martin had said about the man who was following him.
I had asked him how the man looked like. He looked like a creepy ass cracker.
Okay, let me make sure we got that. Creepy
ass cracker. Yeah.
Okay. Is that what you recall him saying?
Yes.
Okay. And is that to mean like a white individual?
Yes, Caucasian.
What did you say to him, or what did he say to you after that?
So he told me the man was looking at him, so I had to think it might have been a rapist. Saying you don't know the area, it might have been a rapist.
Defense attorney Don West questioned Rachel Jeantel about why she characterized the murder as racial.
What's one thing about what Trayvon Martin told you that made you think this was racial?
Describing the person.
Pardon me?
Describing the person.
I just didn't...
Describing the person that was watching him and following him, sir.
Describing the person is what made you think it was racial?
Yes.
And that's because he described him as a creepy-ass cracker?
Yes.
So it was racial, but it was because Trayvon Martin put race in this.
No.
You don't think that's a racial comment?
No.
You don't think that creepy-ass cracker is a racial comment?
No.
During opening statements Monday, attorneys on each side cast conflicting views of Zimmerman's motives on the night of the shooting last February. Prosecutor John Guy said Zimmerman, a neighborhood watch volunteer, had profiled the 17-year-old as suspicious and chose to assume the role of a police officer and follow him. He quoted Zimmerman's own expletive-laced words to a dispatcher.
Good morning. Punks. These they always get away. Those were the words in that grown man's mouth as he followed in the dark a 17-year-old boy who he didn't know. And excuse my language, but those were his words, not mine.
Defense lawyer Don West argued Zimmerman killed Martin because he feared for his life after the teenager smashed Zimmerman's head on the sidewalk, which he suggested constituted a deadly weapon, the sidewalk. West told the jury a knock-knock joke toward the beginning of his remarks, a move for which he later apologized.
Knock, knock. Who's there? George Zimmerman. George Zimmerman, who? All right, good. You're on the jury. Nothing? That's funny.
Zimmerman faces up to life in prison on charges of second-degree murder. His trial is taking place before an all-female jury. 5 out of 6 are white. To talk more about the case, we're joined now by Danielle Cadet. She's editor of Huffington Post Black Voices. Danielle, welcome to Democracy Now!
Thank you.
Talk about what has happened in this trial so far, this most significant moments.
I think the most significant moments, starting with the opening statements, I think the prosecution really started very strong in terms of repeating George Zimmerman's words. I think that their tactic here is really to portray George Zimmerman as a vigilante. And I think opening for Attorney Guy to open with the expletive really drove that point home to the jury very early on in the trial. And as the trial has kind of gone along, the state witnesses have been integral. I think Rachel Jeantel's testimony has been incredible. She really is seen by many people as the prosecution's key witness. And then the residents as well, and just their account of what they saw and what seemed to have taken place that evening. It's very difficult because it was late, it was dark, it was rainy, and a lot of people didn't want to get very close to the situation. So a lot of just the description of what took place that evening, whether it was what voices were heard or the tone of the voices, the aggression, who was on top. I think Maura's testimony yesterday was extremely important. And when she pointed out,
she was a neighbor.
Yes, and the Latina woman. And when she pointed out the individual on top was wearing some kind of red patterned clothing, that was the first time that someone ever identified the person on top was George Zimmerman. If you've seen the photos from the evening that he was at the police station, he had on a red jacket. So that was very telling and a little chilling when she described, him kind of straddling over the body. And Jeantel's testimony, incredibly important. She, being the last person other than Zimmerman to have any kind of interaction with Trayvon Martin and being able to say Trayvon knew he was being followed, I think is a huge part. And probably one of the biggest takeaways from this week was really Jeantel saying Trayvon knew he was being followed and he was trying to get away. He tried to lose whomever this individual was. And he said to her, he's behind me. And I think if the prosecution is able to take Jeantel's testimony and really drive home the point that Trayvon wasn't pursuing Zimmerman and that it was actually the other way around, or on the defense's side, if they're able to say, maybe there is a chance that, which Don West was attempting to do yesterday during his cross-examination, he was trying to say, maybe there is a chance that Trayvon walked up to Zimmerman and kind of picked a fight. So I think there were some really huge pieces here this week of just individual accounts of what took place, because up until now we've only had audio and we've only had a small amount of evidence for individuals to kind of deduce on their own.
Well, on Rachel Jeantel's testimony, obviously that was probably the most dramatic part of the first days of the trial, and the prosecution really, as you would expect of a prosecution, was extremely confrontational with her in some of the questioning. The issue of they tried to make of differences in her testimony now versus what she had said in previous conversations with police.
Absolutely. That's really important. I think that is kind of where the defense is that's kind of what they're holding on to. They need to present Jeantel as an uncredible, as though she's not credible. That's going to be the prosecution's biggest challenge. The fact that Jeantel lied about her age, the fact that she didn't go to the police, the fact that she didn't come to the funeral, she didn't attend the wake or the funeral, they need to present her as though she's not credible, and that her testimony is a little off, because of such the importance of her being a friend of Trayvon and her being the last individual literally to speak to him in the last moments of his life. She's an incredibly important witness, and the defense's tactic here is going to be to show that she's not telling the truth, because she hasn't before. And I think that was really what Don West was trying to do, was he was saying, in your deposition you said this, now you're saying this, you did this, now you're doing this.
So there were a couple of issues. One was she said she was in the hospital while she didn't go to the funeral, but Rachel responded she just felt ashamed that she hadn't gone and was afraid to see his body, or his parents not understanding until then that she was the last person to speak to their son.
Exactly. And that was a particularly emotional part of her testimony. She got visibly upset. Tracy Martin got visibly upset. Both of them were crying.
Tracy, of course, the mother.
The father.
The father.
Tracy Martin, yes. He got visibly upset and, kind of put his head down and was wiping tears away. And Rachel herself she got very upset, and you could tell that she was uncomfortable. She was uncomfortable with the fact that she was on the stand. She was on television. At this point, her face, for the first time, and her name, was all over television, radio, just nationwide at this point.
And look at what she's seeing when she looks out on the witness stand. On the one hand, she's got George Zimmerman, the man who killed her friend Trayvon. And on the other hand, she's got the parents of Trayvon.
Exactly. Exactly, and I think, and even in addition to that, she's got the defense attorney, she's got the prosecution attorneys. She's in a it was very obvious to me that Jeantel was uncomfortable. That's not a normal environment for a 19-year-old African-American woman from Miami. It's just not. She was uncomfortable. She was uncomfortable with getting emotional, and I think that she was uncomfortable with being almost chastised and judged on a very public scale.